Good evening, and welcome to our first regularly scheduled meeting in July, this beautiful summer night, July 5th, and I'd like to reconvene the meeting. And we do note that the meeting has been officially warned. I'd accept a motion on the minutes for June 21st.
Move to approve the minutes.
Any additions, corrections, deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, 5-0. Chair's remarks, just a couple this evening. I'd like to thank Tim O'Connor and Carol Allott for providing the services that they did yesterday for the 4th of July parade and the activities up at the park. An outstanding day was had by all. The weather cooperated, and so very fortunate there. But thank you, Carol, who's here, and Tim, and all the volunteers. I'd like to take a moment here. This is the last time that we're going to have John Meisingring in our presence. This will be his last official board meeting. And I have always told John that when he goes, I go. So I'm going to be following you out the door, I think, John. But I can't thank you enough for what you have done for the community. You came in at one of our darkest times since I've been a resident. We were kind of floundering around financially. You provided great stability, leadership, were understanding to a community who was kind of wandering around, wondering what had happened to us. And I can't thank you enough and wish you all the happiness in your retirement, and wish you well. Thank you for your service to the town.
Thank you very much.
And that's all I have. Barb, do you have anything for us?
No, I would echo your comments about John, and his last day is the 15th of July. And we will be hosting cake and punch in the afternoon, probably up in the finance office. Public well-wishers are welcome to attend, and we'll be starting about 2 o'clock.
Okay. Select Board committee reports. I know that there was one committee meeting, and that's on our agenda here this evening, right, Ken? So you don't want to speak about that? Anyone else? Dora?
Well, I just wanted to add to the comments about John. John brought with him a vast experience in municipal government, and as a new select board member, and then continued to be an experienced select board member, being the process person that I am, and always interested in board development, I always found John a really good sounding board for my thoughts and ideas about just how to make the functioning of the select board in town government better. And I truly appreciate that, and his calm demeanor and just patience with and having conversations with me on more than one occasion. I just want to thank him for that.
All right. Anyone else?
I didn't get
David.
to attend the Traffic Safety Committee meeting, but if somebody who was here attended, maybe we get a quick report about what was discussed.
Oh, you weren't there either? I actually had something else, but I did get a summary from Mike Bukasi, and let me think, they talked again about the traffic pattern on the main street, and I believe that's going to be talked about again at the next meeting, the traffic pattern downtown. And what was there were 2 other issues. They discussed the Citizens Bridge, and there have been additional traffic studies have been done since the new bridge to help determine whether the increase in traffic warrants an additional slip lane onto Western Avenue, or whether they should be looking at other mechanisms for that intersection. And that Steve Barrett is in communication with the state on that, and they're going to be we're waiting for the state to respond to that request to see how that will work with the slip lane. And then there was a smaller item about a stop sign up on Upper Dummerston Road. Someone had a concern that it was too far off, and I think they looked at that and they reviewed that it was actually appropriately placed for that intersection. And those were I believe, the three main things that they talked about.
There's been some substantial continuing concern about the operation of the Main Street lights. And I saw some correspondence a week or two ago about maybe you being stuck in traffic there for
Yes, I
10 or
was.
15 minutes. I'm
I
wondering
was.
if there's been some problems with the way the system's operating, or what's been our experience these 2 weeks since it appears the lights are fully implemented.
What we did is, yeah, there were, oh, thank you. Upper Citizens Bridge, Oak Grove Avenue parking issue, there was an issue there too that we talked about. I'll go back to that. So to follow up with what David said, that, yeah, there were several different periods of time within the day where the traffic would get so backed up, and it was actually backed up to Putney Road. And we had folks go down and watch the lights, and we actually had the project manager, Chris Barker, who is still the project manager for the bridge work, he had him come down and look at it to make some adjustments. It was a little unclear because not all the variables were held constant to attribute it to one particular cause, and that being because there was one of the LED lights wasn't working appropriately, and we had already reported that, and so we weren't sure what kind of impact that would have. The other thing that we weren't sure of that got brought up again with that is, was there an increased amount of traffic going over to Hinsdale that week or two before the 4th of July for buying fireworks and firecrackers, actually. At that point, then we've had talked about it at a department head meeting as well, so that over the next couple of weeks, if anybody noticed any backup, that they were supposed to communicate with the police. And there was at least one occasion when we did send officers down. And Chief Wren, I don't know, do you know anything more about that, how they've been working?
Friday evening, it was a gallery walk, it was the Friday before the 4th, so there was all those other issues that compounded the problem. But we did have an officer at the fairground and also at the five-way downtown.
I did get a phone call then from Ken Upmall, but unfortunately I didn't get it until, I got a voicemail from him that I didn't pick up until later on Friday, so I haven't had a chance to contact him again because we were emailing him about these issues. So, and Steve Barrett was off, so I think he's back sometime this week, so that we can get a report on how has it been working now and have we seen those same backups. There were a couple of periods, it was about 12:30 to about 2 one day, and then the other day was like the chief said, it was a Friday night, beginning at about 5. But we continue to see that left turn lane and going into Hinsdale creating problems. And so we've talked about, we've asked them to possibly adjust that so that it's a little bit longer, giving more people the opportunity to clear that intersection. And so I will have to get with Rick Ethier and find out what adjustments have been made.
Very good. All right. Public participation. Here's an opportunity for you to speak about something that is not on our agenda here this evening. And if you would get up and state your name and the town that you're from, we'll give you approximately 2 minutes if you'd like to say something. There you go. I would accept a motion to go into liquor commissioners.
So moved?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, first up is a tobacco license renewal for the Inferno on Elliott Street.
Is that the motion for this?
Okay, I move to approve the tobacco license for Inferno Entertainment, Inc. at 19 Elliott Street.
There we go. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Accept the motion to adjourn as liquor commissioners.
Move to adjourn as liquor commissioners.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. 5-0. We are regular board members.
Okay, under new business, couple of changes to the agenda. We were going to have an update from the Brattleboro Museum and Arts Center. That is going to, they're going to, because of scheduling conflicts, they're actually going to come before the board on the first meeting in August. And then with that, we do have John O'Connor, the going to be new finance director for the town of Brattleboro, is here. So I'm asking that items I and J be moved up to B. Okay? And then we have, to start the meeting off, we have the setting the FY12 tax rate, and the board received the information just tonight on the calculations of the tax rate. And with that, I'll kick it over to John Leisenring, that the last thing he's going to do is increase people's taxes, and then he's going to leave. So, John.
And after all the accolades, I made a mistake on the letter. Actually, the tax rate is, I've given you some backup information on how it's calculated. And in doing the memorandum, I had some things in here that I made some errors on, and so I didn't recalculate on the, I did it on the spreadsheet, which is the third page in, but didn't carry those over to the memo very well. So the total amount to be raised by property taxes for the town is $12,567,748, and that includes the $12,458,414 to be raised for operations, $10,000 for climate protection, which was voted by the town meeting, and $22,834 for the locally voted exemptions. Those are properties where the town voted to exempt not only from the town but from the school. So we have to pick up the school portion of those taxes and spread it out to the rest of the taxpayers. So the total amount to be raised is $12,567,748. The rate should be $1.1199. And again, if you look at the third page in, it shows the several calculations necessary to get to that number. And then we're also raising $76,000 for BAB, and that creates a rate of 0.1369 for those properties. And then we have the tri-park assessment, which was also approved at town meeting. That is paid only by the tri-park corporation or organization, not the individual mobile homeowners. And that amounts to a levy of $223,276.47, and the rate is $6.6929 for that all that property. That's just one parcel. So the motion should be, oh, and then we're also ratifying the second page in is the state non-residential and homestead tax rate of for the school, $1.53 for the homestead and $1.4077 for the non-residential. And in the motion, the only thing you need is on the first line, change 1.1268 to 1.1199. And the calculated tax rate for FY12.
So, John, that means that the total tax rate for residential property is a penny and a half more approximately this year than last, from 2.6348 to 2.6499.
That's right.
And the non-residential rate is down almost 3 cents.
3 cents, yeah.
And the main difference in those numbers come from the, at least on the non-residential, comes from the state setting of the non-homestead rate.
That's correct. And that, the second,
Actually,
the second page in?
it's from that, but it actually, a lot of that change, that deduction has to do with the CLA. If you look at the second page and you see this, the divided by the CLA, you'll note that the CLA, this is the first year that the common level of appraisal was actually calculated on the reappraisal, so it's based on real numbers. The other, after that, they use kind of 2-year averages. So the CLA went from a 0.92 to a 0.96. Yeah, and so that actually had a savings, an additional savings on that because of having a more accurate accounting of the grand list.
John, is it my understanding that the grand list shrunk by close to $1 million?
That's correct.
Grand list went down by about $1.4 million. There were, although we had an increase with the addition of Commonwealth Dairy, we had a decrease in the assessment of the Brooks House because of the fire. We had a decrease in assessment of the American building. I had some bankruptcy issues, and well, building didn't, people did. And then there was one other.
The solid waste.
Oh, in the solid waste district, we moved from from there being the calculating their taxes to a pilot plan. And so the impact of those 3 changes decreased the grand list by $1.4 million. And that really is, that's the most distressing news because things are really calculated with the state with the assumption that there's an increase in grand lists of approximately 3% every year for your grand list to our grand list. Brattleboro's town grand list has been holding relatively steady, not really seeing the growth we would hope to see, but now to have a decline is a significant matter that we need to continue to focus on, and how do we grow our grand lists?
Well, certainly that's scary to think about when your grand list does drop. You know, I'm not when your grand list exceeds $1 billion, I think 3% growth is unrealistic. We wouldn't have
I would
Brattleboro
agree with that.
we wouldn't have Brattleboro looking like it looks with 3% growth. And also, we're landlocked, so we have some significant challenges. And as I always say, maintaining is a good goal to have with your grand list. Having said that, before we have further discussion, I would accept a motion to approve the tax rate.
I move to approve the municipal tax rate of 1.1199 per $100 of assessed value for general fund operations, an additional 0.1369 per $100 of assessed value for the downtown improvement district, an additional $6.6929 per $100 of assessed value for the Tri-Park special assessment, and to ratify the state mandated education rates at 1.5300 per $100 of assessed value for homestead properties, and at 1.4077 per $100 of assessed value for non-residential properties.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
then we have the appointment of the town treasurer. Currently, John Leisenring serves as the town treasurer, with the assistant treasurers being, I guess that's different, and that you don't have to deal with the assistants, I apologize. It's just the appointment of John O'Connor, and that would be effective July 15th, 2011, although John O'Connor is starting on July 7th. John Leisenring will maintain the treasurer position and title until the 15th of July.
I'd accept the motion.
So moved.
And that is to appoint
Yeah, you should read that one out.
John O'Connor as town treasurer effective July 15th, 2011. Further discussion?
If I might ask, John, if you want to say anything, introduce yourself to the folks, or is this
Sure.
kind of your first public appearance?
Sure. My name is John O'Connor, and I'm about to be named the treasurer for the town of Brattleboro,
Don't be presumptuous.
which is a real honor for me. I've called Brattleboro my home for the past 24 years, and I look forward to really serving the town as both treasurer and finance director. I look forward to working with you, Barb, and the board, and I appreciate all the support you've shown me. I know I have some big shoes to fill with John leaving, and I want to assure everybody that I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that the work that John has done here over the past 5 years is not for naught. So I look forward to working with all of you, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, John. John?
If I may just make a comment, I've worked with John over the past, 3 years or so on the the Vermont Government Finance Officers Association, and have gotten to know him quite well. And I'm really pleased that John was selected for this position, because I know I'll leave it in good hands. So good luck to you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. And
Then the
second part of that?
next is to authorize John O'Connor to execute documents necessary for opening and closing depository accounts.
I move to authorize John O'Connor to execute documents necessary to open and close depository accounts in the name of the town of Brattleboro, and to designate John O'Connor, Deborah
DeRosier.
Sorry, and Brenda Emery as authorized check signers on all depository accounts, and to remove John Leisenring immediately as authorized check signer on all depository accounts.
Actually, that shouldn't be immediately, that should be July 15th as well.
July 15th.
Apologize.
Oh, I see. July 15th.
Take a friendly amendment.
Yeah, well, I'll just take it back.
Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
It's actually for now.
Well, John, good luck, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This is the only meeting where I'll say that you can leave now. Otherwise, you're here to the bitter end.
She means it.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And John,
Good
I'm
night,
talking
everyone.
to O'Connor, not Leisenring. You're here.
You're stuck.
I always said you never have too many Johns.
Okay, next up, Elizabeth Tannenbaum from the Brooks Memorial Library Board of Trustees is here with a recommendation of a replacement for the vacancy that was created with the retirement of one of, why don't you have a seat? Come on up here, Elizabeth, sorry. I was created with the retirement, or with the retirement of, I'm on the wrong minutes, that's what my problem is, of Carol Greenberg. Yeah, thank you. So, Elizabeth, I don't think there are a couple of things you might want to say. If you want to introduce yourself for the public.
All right, I'm Elizabeth Tannenbaum, and I am the new president of the Brooks Library. And I want to thank you for letting me come tonight to tell you a little about the process of selecting our new trustee, and also telling you who the person is and asking that you approve her appointment. We have a vacancy because Carol Greenberg is retiring before the end of her term. And I want to say for the public record that Carol has just been a wonderful trustee for over 10 years, so we're really going to miss her. She's retiring, and so we followed a procedure that we have followed through the years for selecting a new person, and that is to advertise as widely as possible through the newspapers, through iBrattleboro, through the library website, through the library's social media site for the vacancy. And we received applications during the month of May, the deadline being June 1st. And we got 2 excellent applicants for the vacancy. And we interviewed both candidates and then made a selection of Pam Becker, who many of you may know because Pam has been an elementary school teacher in Brattleboro for many years. Most recently, I think, in kindergarten and first grade. And she has recently retired from her teaching position, so now she has more time to devote to some volunteer work in the community. We chose her because of her knowledge of children's literature and her connections with library programs that have been connected with the schools. And we also chose her because she has been a volunteer the last 2 years on the trivia committee for the trivia contest that the library has had as a fundraiser. And we'd like to present her name to you for approval. And if you have any questions, please let me know. She'll be fulfilling the remainder of Carol Greenberg's term, and then she would be presented to the town meeting in March for a full 3-year term.
I would accept the motion.
I move to appoint Pam Becker to the Brooks Memorial Library Board of Trustees until March 24th, 2012.
12. that should be. Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
And
and
thank
thank
you
you
to
to
Pam.
the Select Board for your support of the library.
Thank you.
The library.
The ordinance, proposed ordinance change, this is a second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance changes dealing with parking and loading zones in the town of Brattleboro. Do you want me to go through it real quick and then before the public meeting?
Okay.
Basically, this would be to eliminate the loading and unloading zone on the west side of Church Street in front of number 6 Church Street. It would be to eliminate on the westerly side of Church Street the no parking areas, and to reduce on the easterly side of Church Street the no parking areas from Elliott Street northerly about 71 feet. It would be also to eliminate the limited parking areas on the easterly side of Church Street from the last meter space southerly to the northern point of the Lawton Dry Cleaners driveway, and also to eliminate the limited parking area on the north side of Grove Street from a point 30 feet west of Main Street to a point opposite the westerly end of the post office. What would be added in the place of those eliminations would be on-street meter parking on the easterly side of Church Street, starting from a point 39 feet from the northern side of the driveway to the Lawton's Dry Cleaners, for a total of 4 parking spaces. And on the north side of Grove Street, from a point 30 feet west of Main Street to a point opposite the westerly end of the post office building, and where there would be 5 30-minute parking spaces added.
Very good. And I will open up the public hearing. Take comment.
Barb, could we just make sure to translate that to English? Does that
Sure.
mean there's going to be parking spots in front of where Custom Laundry used to be?
Yes.
And where there's now free spots in front of the rectory, there'll now be parking spots?
They, in front of Lawton's Dry Cleaners, on Church Street, where there is a loading and unloading zone, of about, it's like, it's a 10-minute loading, unloading zone. We're going to have meters there.
All right, what about on the other side of the street? There's going to be parking spots there as well?
And on the other side, yeah, there already are some metered spaces on the other side of Church
No.
Street.
Not in
We're
front
gonna
of Custom Laundry.
Not in front of Custom Laundry. Those are the ones we're going to add, the new ones we're going to add.
Oh, I thought they
Yeah,
were
the
already
custom
there, and I thought, oh, okay.
No.
There's meters on the
There's,
other side
There's
of the
meters
street near
going
Laura.
up,
Yeah.
okay,
in front of Custom Laundry right now, there's like one, 10-minute
right.
spot, and there's nothing there
That's right.
otherwise.
So we're going to have meters on both sides of
On
the street?
both sides of the
And I-
street.
And I have to
Yes.
say that,
And then on the,
I'll take that as in the winter.
on Grove Street, there are currently, there's some meters, and then there's these 30-minute parking, and we're going to get rid of that 30-minute parking and put meters.
And everybody's encouraged to use their smart cards?
This is correct. That's how you get it in there.
That's-
You get the award for getting it in tonight. And I will close the public hearing.
I have to
And,
have a comment.
well, you can comment. Let me get the motion on the floor, and then you can
Go
make a
ahead.
comment.
I'll move that we approve the changes, I move to approve the changes to Chapter 16, Articles 1, 2, and 3 as
Yes, please.
presented.
Thank you. Discussion, and Dora.
Well, I just want to say that the thing in front of the laundry, right now, that spot is, because of the fact that it's only a 10-minute loading zone, there's no one in there at night, and there's no one in there in snowstorms. And as a person who regularly drives down that hill on Green Street, I'm not sure how wise that is to have regular parking spaces, to narrow that space with people coming down around that turn, which can get pretty skittish in the winter. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily going to say that we shouldn't do this, but I do think that it's a cautionary, that because right now, there aren't cars there. They're only there when they're picking up laundry, and when the laundry's not open, there's nobody there. And I don't know, maybe Jean can comment, but I regularly go down that in snowstorms, and I can say that if there's going to be cars there parked on that side, that it could potentially be a hairy situation.
I think any area that we change to could be potentially problematic, but for years, cars have used it as a drop-off spot, and anecdotally, I'm not sure of any accidents that we've had there. So
More than one car at a time. Yeah. So
I don't know.
cars are traffic calming also. So,
Just something to keep an eye on.
thank you. Any further comment? We have a
Bless you.
motion on the floor. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next then, Chief Gene Rinn is here to ask the board to accept and appropriate a Governor's Highway Safety Program grants, and I will let him explain what we asked for and what we got.
Back in April, we came before you and requested to apply for Governor's Highway Safety money. We applied for $22,795. We were approved to receive $8,000 divided amongst 3 different grants. One is a DWE Anytime grant. A second is another DWE Anytime grant with different ending and starting dates, and the other is a 2012 Safety Anytime grant. These were applied for by Sergeant Mark Kerrigan, who's going to be monitoring these and getting the positions filled and using the money appropriately. One thing we did talk about these grants is to use it for the new red lights, the right turn on reds downtown, maybe some enforcement and some education in that area. That might be of assistance. Knowing that when officers stop cars, it does create a traffic problem. It slows traffic down. But that might be one area that we look at spending some of this money at.
Okay. I will accept the motion.
I move to accept and appropriate a Governor Highway Safety 9205 grant for $1,250, a Governor Highway Safety 9205 grant for $3,750, and a Governor Highway Safety 21-5 for $3,000 from the State of Vermont's Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Discussion?
Did we anticipate getting more money than this? And in the past, have we gotten more money?
We applied for more. We'd hoped to get more, but this is what they came down with that they approved this for.
All right.
Is this an example of budget cutting that we're starting to see and less money being available coming from the state to
It
fund
may be.
local projects?
One issue we had is a couple of years ago, we took out a grant. We didn't have the opportunity to use it. We did send some money back. That may be a ramification of not using that grant totally last time. So we're hoping that all this money will be expended.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
The next is a grant application the board is asked to approve. This is an active living workshop, and this is a little bit different of a grant, which is normally a little smaller one like this I may not bring before the board for approval of the application. But this is a grant from AARP Vermont and the Walkable and Livable Communities Institute. And what they do is if we'll apply for the grant, and if we're successful in receiving the grant, there will be an active living workshop featuring Dan Burden. He is nationally known authority on bicycle and pedestrian facilities. Mr. Burden, during this workshop, would take people that attend the workshop to audit 2 locations within the town, identifying possible solutions for improvements of bicycle or pedestrian transportation. There would then be kind of a public presentation of what the recommendation is, and then the actual money, which would be up to $3,000, would come to be used to actually implement those recommendations. So it's a little bit different. The value of this grant, it's been valued at $15,000 for the work hiring Mr. Burden to come, doing the one-day workshop and those types of things. But the actual cash, if successful, would be a sum up to $3,000.
Okay, and someone like to read a motion?
Well, I move to approve an application of a $3,000 active living workshop grant from AARP Vermont and the Walkable and Living Communities Institute.
Okay. Discussion.
I would like to amend the motion. You mentioned, Barb, that there would expect it to be a public presentation on this, but I would actually like to make that part of the motion, that we make sure that even if it's in correspondence, that we actually do get a report back on what happened here, because this is a pretty central to what we've been doing.
I'll take a friendly amendment.
And it can be in correspondence, but some sort of, it can be through an agenda item or correspondence that we do get a report back from the result of this day.
Well, we're gonna have to, if we get the grant, we're gonna have to accept the grant, so, but that can be a part of
Yeah.
this and a part of that.
That would be
Okay.
great.
All right, motion, we do have a friendly amendment to receive a report.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
How is this $15,000 worth of value, the one-day workshop and the walkabout and the presentation by this guy and then the recommendations, how is that all funded?
That has to be funded, I'm not sure, through AARP, I don't know actually even what the Workable and Livable Communities Institute is. AARP has had quite a bit, they have done other assessments in towns. So they have some money that they've been using to do assessments in town with regard to mobility issues for persons. It's particularly pedestrians that they've been working on, because actually we've gotten something from them. So I don't know if the bulk of the money comes from AARP or if it's a combination. And where that money actually originates, I am not sure you know, it could be from AARP, but that could be a pass down from the federal government. I'm not sure on that.
None of this is matching money. We're not being asked
No.
to put up money to do the workshop or anything?
No, no. No, it would actually pay for the facility, it would pay for so it includes a lot of the costs, it includes all the costs of the workshop. And that's actually one of the reasons I brought it to the board, because it really is a different type of grant than what we see.
Okay, we have a motion on the further discussion, excuse me. Seeing none, a motion on the floor. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Next is Recreation and Parks Director Carol Lalott is here with a dump truck bid award request.
Okay, as Barb just said, I'm here. This is the rebid from when we spoke about approximately a month ago. We did put it back out to bid, and this time we received 4 bids.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is, So we received 4 bids ranging from $30,849 to $34,710. Bids came in from Brown Motors of Greenfield, Liberty Chevrolet of Wakefield, Mass., Ford of Brattleboro, and John C. Stewart and Sons of Cuttingsville, Vermont. And we have $31,000 budgeted for the 1 ton, and I'd like to recommend to the board that the bid be awarded to Brown Motors of Greenfield for $30,849.26.
And I will accept the motion before discussion.
I move to accept the $30,849.26 bid from Brown Motors of Greenfield, Mass. for a 1-ton dump truck.
Further discussion? John?
Just for the record, the funding for this vehicle will be a lease document, and we'll bring that forward. We have some other vehicles that we'll be buying in the next couple of weeks. We'll put the whole lease packet together, and probably in August.
So John, does that mean that the total of lease payments will be the $30,849?
No, that's just for this vehicle. And we'll pay the dealer $30,000, and then we'll finance that amount through the lease purchase agreement.
This is 2 steps in that we're asking you just now, and we'll continue to ask, you'll get other bids that come before you, to approve accepting a bid from a dealership, and then just the financing packet will be then brought to the board separately for approval of the financing packet.
Okay, further comment? And Carol, you have no idea why no one...
The first time around, because we did the same exact thing, same exact media outreach, sent letters out to your typical list, and this is, you just never know. You just never know.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We're ready for that vote. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Next, we have a subordination agreement, and Evan Chadwick had a RHIP loan with the town, and this is a request that would ask the town of Brattleboro to subordinate the agreement to People's United Bank. This did go back before the RHIP, the Rental Housing Improvement Program Loan Committee today. I think you have a note in front of you that there was a quorum. They discussed the mortgage refinancing and compliance of his current loan and security agreement with the town, and they, by unanimous vote, they approved signing the subordination agreement.
So the motion should be...
Here it comes.
I've got it. Move to authorize the town manager to sign the subordination agreement between the town of Brattleboro and the People's United Bank of Brattleboro with regard to the RHIP loan with Evan Chadwick.
Further discussion? That Ken was at that meeting. I don't want to put him on the spot. So,
It was at that meeting.
there you go. Verification. There you go. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Next then, moving on to K, is a request from Fairpoint for petitions in order for work that they are doing. They want permission to place approximately 1,900 feet of conduit from pole 8.5 to pole 12 and to place pole box 1 and 2 along Old Ferry Road. These requests go through the Department of Public Works first to ensure that there aren't any issues with our with roads or right-of-way or underground pipes. And Skip Fletcher of Distribution did review this and is okay, so the board is asked to approve this petition and license.
Okay. A motion, please.
I move to approve the petition and license from Fairpoint Communications to place approximately 1,900 feet of conduit from pole 8.5 to pole 12 and to place pole box 1 and 2 along Old Ferry Road.
Further discussion?
I'd like Ken to explain just what that means, please.
I was indeed at that meeting earlier today. Oh, that's the other item. No.
Yeah, this is.
I feel it will improve communications, this
There you
request.
go.
Basically, what they do, all the poles are numbered, and that's how they identify the poles, what poles they're talking about along a road. And so they'll go out and they want to put a conduit in, so they'd be doing some trench work. And so basically, it's in our right-of-way. Their poles are in our right-of-way, and so that's what they're asking for.
Yeah. So they're taking wires from suspension and just putting them
That I
underground?
do not know.
Oh.
I
So-
don't know what they're doing with regard to that.
We don't anticipate any disruption.
No.
No.
We don't.
Okay.
Always assume it's for the better good.
That is what I assumed with my motion.
Okay. All those in favor of that, further discussion, excuse me? All those in favor of that motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? There we go. 5-0.
At the last meeting, there were 3 people were appointed to the Planning Commission. However, actually, one of those was a vacancy that was created by a resignation, so it should have only been for a 1-year term as opposed to a 4-year term. And the board appointed all 3 people without distinguishing the difference in the term. I have not been able to get a hold of the people to see if there's one of them that would like to switch to a 1-year term. So at this point, the board can either decide, or they can wait, and I can get a recommendation from the Planning Commission for the
Okay,
next meeting.
That would work well.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay. And so we'll place this on our August agenda.
And then the last is committee appointments, and of that one was, there was a resignation letter from our representative to the Wyndham Regional Commission, a Mr. David Gartenstein is resigning.
One of the representatives.
One of the 2
One of the
representatives.
representatives.
And when this news hit the streets, one of the people who had actually applied for the position of Representative Jim Vrzino resent a letter saying that he would still be interested in serving as a representative to the Wyndham Regional Commission.
I nominate Jim Verzino to take the spot on the Wyndham Regional Commission.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Jim Verzino being on the Wyndham Regional Commission board, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, Jim, for applying.
And then the only other
The Arts Committee,
committee appointment,
we, earlier this evening, we interviewed 4 candidates for 3 spots. And after the interview process, one of the candidates informed me that he was withdrawing his name from consideration, and so that would leave us with 3 people for 3 spots, and they are Hugh Keelan, Doug Cox, and Judy Zamel. I think that's the right pronunciation, and I would accept the motion to nominate these as a block.
I nominate those 3 as well.
There you go. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the 3 names put forward signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. And thank you to the Arts Committee. They do good stuff for us. Meetings.
alrighty. Oh, before we read the meetings, does the board want to have a discussion about their next meetings? The second meeting in July? I think we need to have do a vote on
do
it
a
because
formal
of
vote.
the
Yeah.
rules of conduct.
I would, we had discussed about holding 1 meeting in July and 1 meeting in August, and that would be, so our next meeting would be the August 2nd. And so we would be skipping our July 19th meeting. And I would accept a motion on skipping the July 19th meeting and then skipping the August 16th meeting.
I move to cancel. Is there another word other than skipping?
Whatever way you
Canceling.
like to
You can
put it.
schedule whatever.
Yes, I move to cancel the July 19th and the August 16th meeting.
Discussion?
Well, I just say that I'd prefer doing the first in August, but, people can decide otherwise.
My preference is to hold the meeting on August 2nd. It's likely to be out of town. A higher authority in our household has indicated that we should plan for August 2nd if possible.
And for me, the closer it gets to the start of the school year, that August 16th is a nightmare for me.
Okay.
And I'll just burst everybody's bubbles by saying, you're probably going to end up having another meeting in August anyway, because there's a lot of weeks in between.
And I mean, certainly
Got a lot of
if,
weeks coming.
if there's a need to have a meeting, we'll certainly schedule a meeting, so.
Yeah.
We'll
Sure.
work around it. So we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0.
All right.
So, Barb, that means that we might have a special meeting, is that the story?
Oh, there's always, if things happen, that's always been the
Yeah, that's
understanding,
always- Oh,
that
we need
if
to
there's a
make them-
meeting gets,
Okay.
if a meeting is missed, if there's something happens.
Mhm.
And usually that would just be because they're going to really get kicking into the bigger project like the wastewater treatment plant. That's a possibility,
I
something
see.
could be needed,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
So, if you had a special meeting and you needed me for any reason, what would I mean, I need to be here, right?
Yes.
And
Well,
I
we
shouldn't
need
phone
to-
in
Well,
presence?
if we needed you to be here, then we could put you on speakerphone. We could do
Okay.
it that way.
Yeah.
So
There's typically,
We're not going to have you disrupt your vacation plans.
there's
It's not
typically,
my vacation plans, I said a higher
Yeah.
authority.
The first one. He's not going to do the second.
We'll be able to have a quorum.
I was going to
We'll
say,
have a quorum without Chris being here.
right, you're not going to have, there's typically not an issue getting a
No,
quorum.
you're not going to be there.
So,
Okay.
Meetings. July 7th, Thursday, July 7th, 6 p.m. Skateboard Committee in the Hannah Cosman. Friday, July 8th, 10 a.m. The ADA Advisory Committee at the Marlboro Graduate Center. Monday, July 8th, at 6 p.m. The Planning Commission in the Select Board Meeting Room. Monday, July 11th, 6 p.m. Rec and Parks Board Meeting is at the Gibson Aikens. Tuesday, July 12th, 4:30 p.m. is the Finance Committee in the Select Board Meeting Room. 4:30 p.m. on the 12th, as well as the Wastewater Treatment Plant Upgrade Oversight Committee at the Select Board Meeting Room. Ooh, that's going to be crowded in there. 7 p.m. is the Tree Advisory Committee in the Hannah Cosman. On Wednesday, July 13th at 12:30, there's an Arts Committee, Canal Street School Wall Painting Project in the Hannah Cosman Room. Monday, July 8th, 6 p.m. West River Park Committee meeting. And at 7 p.m. on July 18th is the Development Review Board. On Tuesday, July 19th at 1:30 is the Solid Waste Committee. 4 p.m. is the Town Arts Committee. And the next scheduled Brattleboro Selectboard meeting is August 2nd at 6:15 p.m.
Barb, may I say something? Planning Commission is trying to get a meeting on Monday, July 25th, and inviting all of the committees as directed by the Select Board previously.
July 26th?
Monday, July 25th, and we will be sending out information about that.
All right. And I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you, BCTV. Thank you, press.